Thank you, Lalit, and I want to definitely thank Thai Toronto to give me this opportunity to speak to you. Interestingly, Thai Toronto was formed by myself and 9 other people way back in 2001. And we, for about 2 years, we were floundering because those of you who know 2000 era, it was basically that same thing that was happening now or happened in 2008, kind of recessionary time period. And we were floundering in terms of what Thai Toronto should do because we had brought Dhawan, the founder of Thai Global, to come and open the Thai Toronto chapter, and then we had 1 or 2 sessions, and then we just didn't know what to do. And I'm really glad that after some perseverance by several pioneers, not myself, but others, and especially Suresh Manan's leadership during the last several years, Thai Toronto has taken up a major step forward in this particular space. So I do want to thank Thai Chander for the Thai Institute. I'm going to talk about the innovation ideas in emerging technologies and emerging markets. I think you people are still having your dinner, so I thought I'll throw in a couple of entrepreneur humor while you're eating. Let me ask, this is the standard, very common joke, how many entrepreneurs do you need to change a light bulb? And I picked this up from entrepreneurhumor.com, so I don't own any intellectual property for these jokes. 1 to change the light bulb plus 23 more to define the perfect new bulb. What do you give to the entrepreneur who has everything? 10 years with a non-parole of 6. Have you heard of the entrepreneur who bred a 3-legged chicken? I think this is a long joke, and those of you, you can probably read this thing faster than I can speak, but essentially somebody had found a chicken running along the car, and then the chicken was able to keep up even when he went from 50 miles to 60 miles and 70 miles, and finally that person led to a farm where all these 3-legged chicken were. He asked the farmer, what's up with these chickens? The farmer said, well, everybody likes chicken legs. I have bred a 3-legged chicken. I'm going to be a millionaire. The man asked him, have you tasted? The farmer said, don't know, haven't caught one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about my background, and I'm going to talk about global trends that come out. Rizvi mentioned, but from a slightly different angle and different perspective. How do they affect the idea generation? I'll try to take Rafiq's accident lecture and try to give a flow chart, because I'm a computer background person, and every computer person has some kind of flow chart. And then I'll give you 4 examples, 3 of which I've personally been associated with, and the 4th which many of us have observed. And then I think we can go through one slide there. You can have some takeaways, some lessons, some advice perhaps. My professional career spans across 35 or maybe 40 years, really, if you include the last 5 as well. Essentially in the IT, wireless, mobile computing, and telecom. I spent my first 14 years with IBM, where I learned some excellent skills. But in terms of my real working life, I've been privileged to architect, design, and implement some of the largest computer networks in this country and a few abroad. Some people do recognize me as an expert in North American wireless and mobile computing because I wrote a book, which I'll talk about in a minute. I have spoken at major international conferences in the wireless space. In fact, Jim Balsillie, who's the founder of RIM, as all of you know, and Jim and I started the wireless circuit on Comtex together. I used to be the moderator and Jim used to be the speaker because he's a marketing person. And we did that for about 5 years, from 1998 to about 2003. My domain expertise is in systems integration, end-to-end. How do you put a complete solution together from different components? And I have a practitioner's focus. How do you have all these people, the IT professionals, build solutions and systems using different pieces of technology? And in general, as a consultant, where most of my time has been spent, I try to pick projects where we could extend the state of art in these emerging technologies. However, my current motivation for the past 5 or 6 years has been to give something back to the community and mentor young entrepreneurs. I played an active role in TIE, and I have played an active role in IIT Alumni, the Canadian chapter, as well as the Pan IIT Research Forum, which is based in Silicon Valley, which is called ICORE, which stands for India Centers of Research Excellence. In fact, I'm going there tomorrow for a research summit being held on Saturday. I'm passionate about Canadian innovation for emerging technologies and markets. And I'm definitely interested in supporting Canada's science and technology strategy. And for one important reason, that I believe that Canada and India and emerging markets have a great future. And the Canadian government has stressed that there are 3 particular areas of technology in which they want to utilize Canadian resources more efficiently and provide public support in terms of clean technologies, digital media, and advanced health sciences. And advanced health sciences involve information technology, wireless, nanotechnology, and medical science convergence. My strength is really as an emerging technology analyst. I think based on my record for the past 35 years, I have a reasonably good eye for successful ideas that are likely to succeed ultimately. I may be wrong initially, but fundamentally, if they are right, then they do succeed. However, I have been wrong in predicting the timetable when they're going to succeed. I think Professor Rafiq mentioned a few trends which affect generation of business ideas. These trends can be looked at from the technology perspective and economic perspective, and in terms of globalization, which Kumar mentioned also. But from technology trends perspective, there are some promising technologies which are going to change things, and they are either being developed to solve some existing problems. Certainly in the green tech area, in the ICT area, information communication technology, there are huge amounts of advances being made, and in the digital media, convergence of information technology, etc., is leading to many inventions, many solutions for our current problems, are improving the way some of our current solutions work. And there's a huge area of advances that we need in the advanced health sciences area. As we all know, that with the aging population, we need to solve a lot of these problems, and we cannot depend on rather expensive solutions of keeping our records, using our existing technologies, using existing drugs and so on, and testing, etc. And there are a lot of advances being made in those areas. There are hundreds of ideas in any of these technologies which are going to be of interest so long as you have some background in taking advantage of those things. The other trend is, of course, that many of the problems that we need to solve will require not just one piece of technology. They'll require multidisciplinary integration. Some of these problems will require that we use nanotechnology, which is essentially material science-based technology. We may use wireless because we are thinking of putting some embedded chips beneath the skin to read certain things out of human body and then sending that information back to the medical professionals and so on. And so that requires that not just one discipline is required, but multiple disciplines are required. We have in the audience one person who's looking at breast cancer, and he's using lasers and those kind of technologies to come up with some information in terms of imaging and so on. But the second thing is that the technologies are also converging. Many of these technologies, they are trying to come together. No longer can we just consider information technology or one particular science as pure science that existed, a pure technology that existed, let's say, 10 years ago. And those are converging. And we must be able to take advantage of those, that convergence in order to solve some of these problems of the future. Mobility is a huge area for new ideas. In fact, by latest statistics from one of the research firms indicate that it will reach $1 trillion industry by year 2015. It's already a $500 billion industry. When I wrote my book, which I'll talk about in a minute, it was about $100 billion business. So it's already become 5 times and will become 10 times in almost a decade. There's a huge market in the mobile commerce area. The payment systems still are not perfect for business to business, business to consumers, and consumers to consumers area. There's still a lot of things yet to be solved. The solutions that exist are still not clean. They're not universal. They don't work across various disparate systems. And there's a huge area of development, of solving some niche problems, as well as solving some global problems in the mobile commerce area. Group to group, G to G stands for group to group social media, is of course growing, and it has taken a lot of press and media by storm. And what is happening in the Middle East and what is happening in other countries is as a result of that. But that is going to happen, and that is happening without much of innovation as such. It's innovation of a different kind. But from entrepreneurs' point of view, there are enterprise applications of social media which have yet to be worked on, and where people are struggling as to how various businesses, large businesses, can use the social media to get new customers, to have interaction and so on. And the new systems need to be developed, new information and intelligence needs to be procured, filtered, and used for business purposes. Telematics. Telematics is the technology which uses wireless in the car. It's a huge area which is going to become at least $200 million business in the next 10, 15 years. Can you imagine that most of most of the components in your car, they are all controlled by the computer? There is in my book, I wrote about an example where there's a timing or belt in each of the automated cars. That's controlled by software. And that's one of the big problems and very expensive repair job. But it can be easily repaired through software. So can you, what Ford and and General Motors are working on is being able to detect that yes, there's a failure there, and then download a fix because it's essentially a software fix to change some of the pieces and the intelligence to repair that almost electronically without ever going to the repair shop. Then there is the holographic-based personal presence market. Like today, like I think we are sending this video feed of this presentation, but this is still somewhat not as realistic. But the holographic-based personal presence market is where three-dimensional images will be sent across the internet, and you can have almost a real-life feel of the person in India or China or anywhere else speaking to you. So there are still huge areas of business and opportunities which wait our creation and our developing either niche solutions, or piece solutions, or global or enterprise solutions. Then there are economic trends that I want to talk about. Future innovations, I think many serious thinkers believe will not come from North America alone. In fact, increasingly fewer innovations will come from North America, and they will come from emerging markets. In fact, I think I'll talk about the nano and so on. Many German business thinkers feel that some of the innovations that are being brought into some of the new technologies in India are something that they have to watch for. So there's this concept of frugal innovation trends. Professor Prahlad is one of the late Professor Prahlad who passed away last year. He wrote the book which will emphasize the gold at the bottom of the pyramid. His concept is going to be increasingly utilized in the future technologies and products and services, because no longer can we afford to produce our products and services at the cost that exist in North American context. Increasingly, we have to look at, we have to rethink our MBA courses to teach people. I have a little bit of difference from Professor Rafiq, where he talks about high margin. What I think Professor Prahlad talks about low margin, but massive quantities. So I think we have to start thinking, to modify that old concept that we continuously teach in business schools, that we must go for the highest margin products. I think we need to look at Walmart, and they say, no, I think we have to look at the low margin, changing processing, reducing costs, and then go for massive change volume. That has, I think we have to start thinking of that. Adaptation and homogenization of products. They no longer, I think we can afford to take Canadian or North American technology and sell it to India and China and Africa. We have to modify and adapt these technologies. We have to change this technology to suit their needs. And I'll try to illustrate that by an example of the Indian telecom industry. Globalization, I think, has been talked about. But one of the aspects of that I want to mention is that research and development. According to Frost's study, 60 to 70% of future research and development in year 2015 will be done in the BRIC countries, India and China primarily. So North America will have less and less proportion of research and development. Yes, some innovation will still come from here, but I think actual product development, actual product design and development, that will move to India and China. It's primarily to India because I think China is still stuck on manufacturing excellence and not in innovative excellence. I think Professor Rafiq did he did an excellent job of giving you a broad brush process and of looking at the ideas, I have tried to give you a flow chart of the filtering process that you can use to come to a short list of the ideas which you need to focus on and see which one you are going to pursue. And a number of these factors which I think Rafiq mentioned and other people also mentioned, they need to be taken into consideration before you select the idea that you want to pursue. Certainly passion, your understanding of that particular industry and market, and your background, whether you're as an employee of a company, those are things which will help you in coming to that unique that idea that you want to pursue. If it's a unique idea, first thing you should do is patent it. And this has become increasingly important this week. Okay, thank you. I've got a cue for moving faster. I think President Obama has signed a law last week which protects the idea before any product is manufactured based on that idea. And I think so the first thing before you make alpha or beta product based on your idea, you should try to patent it if you can. But continuously, I think you have to rework it and validate that idea. Let me give you quickly 3 or 4 examples. One is the example which is related to my own work. I think this has a little bit of a story. Sometimes back in 1997 or 1996, I was asked by the province of Ontario to test the limits of wireless technology for police applications. And what we did was we looked at various things that a police officer does in terms of the normal day's activity, and we said, what if we could change a 6-week process into a 6-minute process? And so what is the 6-week process? 6-week process is when you're caught speeding on a highway. And then the officer comes and he gives you a citation, he gives you a piece of paper, you go to court and you fight it and this and that, and then ultimately after 6 weeks it gets resolved one way or another. We said, well, what if we allow you to pay the fine, a reduced fine, on the highway, authenticate your credit card, find out your previous driver's information and so on together, and give you a discount because of your good record and so on. Then that whole 6-week process can be reduced to 6 minutes, a very efficient thing for the government. And we demonstrated that by putting various pieces of technology together. And at that time, wireless was very early. In fact, there were only 2 companies, FedEx and UPS, which used wireless to any major extent. And I gained a lot of knowledge, understanding of how this whole thing works. And I said I should give this knowledge back to the practitioners who will be ultimately using wireless for their business applications. So I wrote a book. McGraw-Hill published a book called Systems Integrators Handbook on Wireless Mobile Computing. And then as the book was being reviewed, they said, look, we need to revise this book next year. I said, no, I'm not going to revise this book, because it's taken me almost 6 months and I left my consulting assignment and it's just too painful. However, what I will do is I'll provide updates to this book through the internet, because the internet had just come about in 1996, 97. So on the second page I said, all updates to this book will be published through the internet. So as soon as the book was published, within about 3-4 months I started getting, and I put my email address in that over there, I started receiving emails saying, when are we going to see the updates? So I was really surprised, and I had to do something about it, because McGraw-Hill said, look, Chander, you have to do something. You have to do what you said you will do. So I conceived of this information portal, which I called mobileinfo.com, which we created, which would provide one stop for all the information that someone needs, and essentially is a continuous update to the mobile computing information that you need. So we created a portal which was one-stop because it dealt with conceiving, conceptualization, justifying, in fact, the whole life cycle of the mobile computing project till it starts operating. And we essentially wanted to commoditize consulting services in a sense because I also provided templates as part of this information portal. Normally, consultants like Deloitte will charge $50,000 for building a business case for a typical project. We gave a $100 business case template, which with some help, you could customize for your own needs. And we also built a business-to-business exchange and so on. But I was ahead of the market. We proved that, in fact, you can use the internet and the web portals for selling across the globe. There was a company called Simple Logic who had built a synchronization software, and they wanted to sell it across the world. And there's no way, it's a small company, it's a startup. So we put out their stuff on the internet because we had a newsletter which used to go to 35,000 people across the globe. And within 2 months, 4 insertions, they got 600 leads across the globe. We essentially proved that yes, in fact, the internet and information portal like this can be used for marketing purposes as well. I'll talk about, I think I'm conscious of the timetable and a few minutes left for me. But the second example is DataWin Pocket Server. This is, in fact, where I was an advisor. In fact, the founder of DataWin was the one whom I met at the opening of Thai Toronto when Kamal Rekhi had come to open it. And Sunit Tuli is his name, and he had come up with a device, in fact, what he called a pocket server, which could, on a small 4-inch screen, could render web pages in real time 10 to 20 times faster. In fact, there did not exist a device in that time, 2001, where any device which could render web pages on this thing. Today, of course, we made tremendous progress. BlackBerry used to take 40 seconds to render a small page, and that they also did not do it well. So I think Sunit had a very interesting device which could do that, and they used some very significant patented compression technology based on facts to do this thing. And they got rave reviews. In fact, Dell, he showed it to Dell, and they were ready to invest. And in fact, Michael Dell's brother put $200,000 into it. And I also, for my part and advice and so on, got 50,000 shares out of it. I'm still trying to find out whether they are worth anything. But nonetheless, I think it was a remarkable product which did not sell because of the resistance, the ecosystem that exists even today. Because the telecom providers do not like it because they don't want anything to become more efficient. Device makers do not want it because you are going at that's where they get their revenue. So he had a very tough time trying to market it directly to the consumers. I think I spoke to him yesterday. He was in India. And he's still trying to change his device and so on, and he's now trying to build tablets. He's selling some pocket servers, but they are not. He's not sold them in millions of units because of iPhone and every other device which has come about, and this increase in speed of the wireless networks. So the problem has essentially gone away. The third example is India's telecom innovation. My personal role was really a promoter of India's adoption of the wireless for telecom. I think I've been involved in setting up telecom centers of excellence also. But in 1997, I went to an IEEE conference with another person, Professor Bhargava of UBC, and they were talking about 5 million phones and then their target was 60 million phones in 10 years. We said this is ridiculous. India is a country of 1 billion people. You need something different. And they had not looked at using wireless and underlying technology to serve the Indian population. What happened in the next 10 years is history in terms of evolution, rather revolution of telecom in India. India today is the fastest growing wireless market in the world. It's the second largest market in the world. They put out 25 million subscribers every month, which is the size of the Canadian population. And it had the cheapest, absolutely the cheapest cellular service in the world. The only people who make the call pay. There are almost hundreds of innovations that Indian business people and the telecom providers did to make India that kind of a market. And they do make money. I think when I spoke to Motorola and others, whether they could in fact manufacture a $15, which was about 700 rupee handset, they said you are a fool. It just cannot be done. Yet, after persistence, after a lot of work, re-engineering and the frugal engineering of the Indian people, convincing Nokias and others, they are producing $16 handsets, color handsets. So I think this is many different innovations into the distribution channels, etc., have been sort of achieved in the Indian telecom industry. What part of that can be done here is something for us to think about. The fourth example is of India's nano car innovation. I think most of you have read, my role is only as an observer like all of us. I think most of us realize that Ratan Tata realized this as an idea when he saw a family of 4 driving on an Indian road in the rain. He said, this is not right. What if I can create a car which I can sell for 1 lakh rupees, which is $2,000 for this market, and he did it. And there are many engineering innovations, many distribution innovations, many business innovations which have been talked about. In fact, he has 34 patents. He brought a nano to Cornell, his alma mater in New York, and broke that problem into components, and the faculty at Cornell wondered how they did it. Be a part of the story and advising and encouraging people. Keep your corporate life short. If you have to work for a large company, just work in the innovation department. Think laterally, vertically, horizontally, orthogonally, in any direction, enhance space. Innovation is about change against conventional, continue as is wisdom. Persistency does pay. So change your ideas, whichever way the market requires, and ultimately, if the ideas go right and meets a business need, you will succeed. Flexibility is a must. Modify your idea continuously. Take advantage of the globalization. Kumar has done that, made that point very extensively. But take advantage of the innovation in Canada, product research in India, manufacturing in Taiwan and China, and target your market across the globe. Protect your ideas as early as you can. Emphasize your core IP. I think avoid running up against the ecosystems that might be in your particular industry. This is Sunit Tuli's example, where he tried to beat the telecom industry. Realism, everything takes longer than what you think it might, and discount your market research firms' advice because they are normally off, or they are too ambitious, or too, they just want to give you the rosy picture only. And finally, when you do succeed, adopt the Gates and Buffett's as your role models and give something back.
Thank you.